On this morning's all-you-can-eat menu, J.D. Vance has been grilled, like so much breakfast sausage, at not one but two cable networks. And we have the best of both stories to serve up to you right now. You know, each day it seems like there's a new nails on the chalkboard tape being released that exposes J.D. Vance's true nature. I mean, by his own words, the man who throws around the term sociopath, well, doesn't he display a clinical tendency toward a conscious lack of empathy or regret? Well, let's find out. Grab an extra cup of coffee and we'll dig in. First, the early risers over at CNN served up this plate of woe for J.D. Vance,
where he is talking about the childless status of a political opponent. This during a 2021 Ohio Senate forum. Then candidate Vance went after a teachers union leader who didn't have kids.
You know, so many of the leaders of the left, and I hate to be so personal about this, but they're people without kids trying to brainwash the minds of our children. If she wants to brainwash and destroy the minds of children, she should have some of her own and leave ours the hell alone.
Leave our kids the hell alone? Wait, this is the vice presidential candidate representing the Republican Party that makes fun of kids. Now, I digress. Let's go back to the hypocrisy. You know, it turns out his unsettling, almost sociopathic obsession with baby making has long been the tentpole of his pasty-faced career.
A CNN K-File report found several other instances in recent years where Vance brought up this topic.
We should care about declining fertility, not just because it's bad for our economy, but because we think babies are good. And we think babies are good because we're not sociopaths. Why have we let the Democrat Party become controlled by people who don't have children? And why is this just a normal fact of American life? We're effectively run in this country via the Democrats, via our corporate oligarchs, by a bunch of childless cat ladies. Kamala Harris, Pete Buttigieg, AOC, the entire future of the Democrats is controlled by people without children.
So while that childless cat lady's remark is perhaps like, you know, you can print it on a T-shirt, which is why it makes it so devastating for him, this is part of a pattern, Matt Gorman. There are more comments that basically underscore the philosophy he was trying to articulate with that one phrase. Yeah,
and look, I kind of keep thinking back also to earlier in the show. This is kind of in a new reality now we're seeing for candidates. It changed it was a little bit maybe 10 years ago when you had a little sporadic things. What are the best attacks we have against Kamala Harris? Things on video. What are the best attacks they have on J.D. Vance? Things on video. Pelosi we talked about before whether Trump will use, I feel responsible for this. The proliferation of video is now a massive, you're being videoed everywhere. And I think how candidates deal with that, especially with vetting candidates and how they respond to these attacks, is going to be a huge new problem with the campaigns going forward.
Yeah, I mean, look, I take your point. I will also say one of those was in a televised, a forum for when he was running for Senate, and the other was when he was a candidate for vice president. I mean, that's actually really interesting to me in terms of he was articulating the childless cat lady philosophy, what underlies it, as recently as July 30th.
Matt, you did a really good job there of not addressing how disastrous your vice presidential candidate is. And I mean, who does he think he is? I mean, some people can't have children. Some people have circumstances where they don't want children or can't have children at a certain time. I mean, this is turning off suburban America. There is no doubt in my mind that J.D. Vance is a huge anvil on Trump's chances of winning because of stuff like this. And he'll say, well, I made one comment, it was sarcastic. It's not. It's over and over and over. And it's really, as Tim Walz would say, it's weird as hell.
Stephen, this was how he addressed it in an interview on Meet the Press. He did say he has no regrets about the childless cat lady comment.
Look, I regret certainly that a lot of people took it the wrong way, and I certainly regret that the DNC and Kamala Harris lied about it.
But do you regret what you said, Senator?
Look, Kristen, I'm going to say things from time to time that people disagree with. I'm a real person. I'm going to make jokes. I'm going to say things sarcastically. Those sarcastic comments were made in the service of a real substantive point. This country has become too anti-family. Those things that people disagree with. I have a lot of regrets, Kristen, but making a joke 3 years ago is not in the top 10 of the list.
Okay, for starters, based on that, you're not a real person, JD. You're a real liability, and you might want to rethink that top 10 regrets list, because there's someone else full of regret this morning, too. And the folks over at MSNBC have raised the brutal question, just who vetted this jabroni? Well, they put it a little bit differently. Let's watch their harsh assessment of the Trump brain trust that birthed vice presidential candidate Jethro D. Vance.
Yeah. Simone, it all sounds kind of bonkers in 1950s, and it kind of reflects a world view of J.D. Vance's, but how much damage do you think it's actually doing to the Trump-Vance ticket?
I think it's doing a lot of damage, Caddy, because not only is this a very old world view, it is also the current, frankly, platform of the Republican Party apparatus. In state after state all across this country, there are Republican lawmakers, state legislative folks, who have put bills on the floor that require women to get permission from their husband if they would like to get an abortion. There was a bill in Missouri that I believe passed that said a woman who wanted a divorce couldn't get one if she was pregnant. I don't know what the obsession is with the current Republican Party apparatus with women's reproductive, not even care, but just the ability to have children or not, and whether they would like to do so or not. But seems to be a focal point. And it's just, he's disparaging a large swath of people. And let me just say, as a person who has not birthed a child from my womb, I take grave offense to these comments, as though because you don't have a child that you had yourself, and I don't know what children J.D. Vance himself has had. It's my understanding his wife had the children, but, there we go. That you don't have a stake in the game here in America. That's just... It is weird. It is weird, and it is concerning. And this all goes back to, this is why vetting is important. And I recently spoke to Eric Holder, former AG, who did the vetting for the Harris-Walz campaign. And I asked him, I said, are you sure you got everything? Because look at what these videos coming out with J.D. Vance. And he said he watched a lot of YouTube videos, and he thinks he got it all, but you can never be sure. And I have to wonder, what was the vetting for J.D. Vance? Because this is simply insane.
And we're seeing by polling that Vance is one of the least popular running mate picks we've ever seen in modern presidential election history.
Well, you have to ask yourself if the felonious leader of the Republican Party and his best of everything team couldn't see this train wreck, the Hooterville Cannonball Express, headed off the tracks. Then let's moon view this back to the final point. You're not fit to pick a decent VP, and you're certainly not fit to run our country.